Hello again. Voilà, pour la deuxième partie de mon atelier stratégique, alors on a quelque chose qui est vraiment très, très stratégique. Donc, avec nous, nous avons l'honneur et le privilège d'accueillir Madame Albena Trifonova. Elle est bulgarienne d'origine et aujourd'hui, on va faire un first. C'est pour la première fois dans ma conférence française ici. On est en 22e année maintenant. Elle va parler en anglais, OK? Et Quentin va parler en français. Mais c'est quand même très, très ironique parce qu'elle représente la marque Ricard Pernod. Bon, qu'est-ce qu'il y a de plus français que Ricard Pernod? À part la Tour Eiffel, peut-être. Mais elle va parler en anglais. Et ceci, c'est un reflet de ce qui s'est passé. Parce que nous, on croit que Pernod-Ricard, c'est quelque chose de super français. En fait, la France, pour eux, c'est maintenant un petit marché. Ce n'est pas le plus grand marché. Et ils sont deuxième mondial au niveau global dans tout ce qui est vin et spiritueux. Et Albena est responsable pour tout le développement du personnel au niveau corporate. Et elle va nous parler pourquoi la fonction de Learning and Development, ou la fonction formation, est devenue d'une importance stratégique. Et elle va nous expliquer comment ça marche pour Ricard Pernod à un niveau global. Donc moi, j'ai eu une surprise aujourd'hui parce que j'ai toujours cru que Ricard Pernod, c'était un truc super français. Oh, pas du tout. Apparemment, c'est complètement global. Ils sont champions du monde. Voilà. So, Albena, I'm going to give the microphone to you. Just before saying, cet jeune homme ici, ce très bel jeune homme, c'est Quentin, Lemarié de Coursera, qui va présenter en binôme avec son client, Albena, OK? So,
OK. Ah, ça marche.
Do you want this microphone or this one? Yeah, then you can walk around, right? Do your stuff.
All right. Thank you very much, Sally-Anne, for this intro. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Very humbled to be here with you. The last time I came, it was in 2019. The world was very different back then. But hopefully, we have a good session for you today with some ideas, some insight. I would like to tell you that we're going to use Slido today. So if you don't know it, you can scan the little QR code here. I hope it's big enough. It will allow you to ask questions during the session. And it will also allow us to do a little survey in between the presentation so that we can have some live insights from you too. Today I am with Albena. I'm very happy that you are with us.
Thank you, Quentin.
And so before we start, I wanted maybe to just introduce a little bit ourselves. So maybe we can start with you and then...
No, please start and I will...
You sure? All right, that's fine then. All right. Okay, so just very briefly about me. I'm a development director at Coursera. And when I joined Coursera in 2018, we were about 7 people in the London office. Today we are about 170. We're planning to maybe open an office in Paris this year. It's been a nice little story. And when we started, our idea, and the idea of the people that funded us, was to give access to the best content in the world to the greater number of people. So we're still a content provider, although we have the technology to help find the right content. But today we're serving 110 million people across the world, and our goal is to still offer the access to courses, and that what makes us a little bit different, to courses that are specifically chosen from what we think is the most credible institution for each area that we want people to develop into, right? So that said, I love my job because I have the chance to be talking to dozens, if not hundreds of people every year, hundreds of learning leaders, not always as important as Albena, but it gives us perspective on what's happening, where is the world of learning going, and I'm always super happy to share it back when I have the chance. So this is what I'm going to try to do today. And Albena here, if you can maybe introduce your role, and everybody knows Pernod-Ricard. But...
Thank you, Quentin. Yes, everybody, I hope, knows Pernod-Ricard in France, but one specific point, we are not just a French company. We are a global co-leader in the spirits and wine industry that is headquartered in France, and we are French in our heart, but very international in our reach and our approach. So my name is Albena, and I was kindly invited by Quentin to join him today, and I'm responsible together with the team of Pernod-Ricard University, all of whom are here, for the global learning and development strategy and the continuous growth and personal development of all our employees across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, Albena. So why are we here today? Well, we wanted to talk about the strategic importance of L&D in the companies today, because we're starting to believe at Coursera that learning leaders should have a seat at the executive committee, right? And should at least be a real big part of the strategic decisions of the company. And we are going to show you why and how some of our clients have managed to do it. Now, to make a little parallel, because in 2012, the year Coursera was founded, I was working for Gartner, and we were in the advisory part that was helping the CIOs, Chief Information Officers of universities. And at this time, most of the questions they were asking were around, well, is Coursera dangerous for our university model? Irrelevant for our conversation today. Are we strategic for the company? Do we need to be at the executive committee? How do we prove our impact to the business? How do we prove that we have value added inside the organization, but also outside the organization, right? And all of these questions, that's really funny. I hear the same from the learning community for the last 2 years. And so just a little skip ahead, but these guys, they got their seat at the executive committee eventually, right? And they became very integrated in the value added that the universities propose to their learners. So let's go into a little bit of context and why we think this is happening right now. We have seen a lot of changes over the last couple of years, right? So in 2018 already, I was still working at Gartner. We already advised our client that a skill crunch was coming, if it wasn't already there. It was already there in the US, not much in Europe, but it was coming. And so basically, for 23 jobs in 2018, 85% of the Fortune 500 was hiring for these 83 jobs. So you can imagine everybody was competing for the same jobs. They were STEM, most of them. But if you have to compete against Ferrari or Google or whatever, any kind of company for the same profiles, it's very difficult to get there. And it has accelerated because of COVID. So we know that people are working from home. We know that people are, the companies are trying to digitalize even more than before. And the need for skills that are technical skills, they are still very high. The need for skills that are human as well, because of the change of the workplace, very high too. And something that we did not expect is the workforce has also, so the frontline workers, we can distinguish the white collars from the frontline workers, right? And the frontline workers have been the one that we have lost at the highest pace since the end of the COVID-19. There are many reasons for that. People that want the same privilege to be working from home, they are reconsidering their life. But what's important is that on top of the skill crunch that we have now a workforce crunch, because we can't hire whether it is frontline workers or white collars. So now, because of these, we see that CEOs have shifted really their strategy, and the company realizes that it's difficult to hire, it's difficult to keep the talent, it's difficult to have the skills at the right place. What I wanted to ask you now, if you go to the Slido on your phone, you can scan the QR code if you want, if you haven't done it already. We want to see if already your business is perceiving some of the strategic aspect that L&D could have on their priorities. And then we will show, and then we will see what are these priorities. Albena, I wanted to ask you, whilst people answer, have you perceived these skills or workforce crunch at Pernod-Ricard?
I think at Pernod-Ricard we see the current and future reality much more as a skills-based economy and skills-based workplace. Yes, like every company, we faced the talent shortages here, there, or everywhere. But we also realized that without putting more strategic effort in learning and development, we will never succeed. We cannot constantly acquire all the skills on the market. And also, as part of our S&R responsibility, we don't leave anyone behind. For us, every man and woman in the organization counts. And therefore, being very people-centric, very people-driven company, we've invested a lot of effort in establishing, I would say, the philosophy, the culture, and the ecosystem for continuous upskilling of all our employees across the globe.
And we're going to talk about culture in a minute, so that's good that you introduced that. And thank you for answering to the poll as well. Okay, so business growth through productivity is the main areas where your leaders are seeing L&D having an impact. I think that's quite great. We did that in December with a different population at another event, and actually workforce retention came first. So this is a very interesting development, and actually productivity is an important part of what we're doing, but is that really what our CEO are looking for? So you can see here that growth is actually the #1 still goal for CEOs, and this is Gartner data. So it has, however, come down 8% from 2021, and the one that has grown, the one that have grown the fastest is the workforce priority area. And in this workforce priority area, you can see that talent retention, hiring, DEI are the #1. And actually, many of these CEOs think that talent retention should be in the top 3 priority for the company, right? So it is incredible how much something where we have a direct impact is getting so important for the company and so critical for the years to come. And we don't see that going down, by the way. Now, when you think about tech-related and growth as well, so you have mentioned that growth is something where L&D is already perceived as a help for the company. Tech-related, what can we do about tech? Can we hire people externally? We have seen that is very difficult. Can we train people internally? Yes, we do. So even in this area, indirectly, we're having an impact, and we can have even more. So now, how do we address these big shifts, these big changes? How do we show that we can address as well the business priorities and therefore become strategic for the company? So we have a session that is in 2 parts. Today we are going to address the 3 first, so creating a learning culture and what learning ecosystems, the new role of L&D. And then in the theater 6 at 3:30, we're going to go through which kind of KPIs some of our clients have put in place to show that they have a strategic impact in the company. Well, let's start with learning culture. And when created a learning culture, many of you told us that they were disappointed with the engagement they got from the learners. So what we found very useful, we have analyzed the data from a lot of learners and tried to identify what kind of profile, what kind of differences these learners have. And to simplify really the model as much as we could, we have seen there was 3 main type of profiles. So the first one were the natural learners. These people are in demand. They're not necessarily young people, but the majority of them are. And they know that they need to learn continuously in their career to grow. And so these people are in demand, and L&D just need to feed them. It's not an easy task, but once they are fed, they're happy. And they can find the content themselves. They know what they want most of the time. If you don't give them what they want, though, they're going to be super angry and they're going to leave the company, which is too bad. Now, the third one is the resistive learners. So often, you can have an objective to engage 100% of your population, but you can't, because these people, they find that learning is an insult to their competency, an insult to their previous, to their career, to their experience. They refuse to engage and to even be asked to learn something. The only way you can engage these people really is to scare them, to threaten them that they're going to lose their job. But we don't want to do that. That's not the role of the L&D, right? So the most interesting population that we found was those that were in the middle, the shy learners. How many times have we heard, we don't have time to learn? It's good. We wish we could do it. We wish we could do it, but we can't. So these people, how do we convince them that they should be learning? How do we spend most of the time actually to engage with them? And we have a couple of best practices that we've heard from the customer, but I think, Albena, you're better placed than us to talk about it. So do you have any kind of best practice to engage this population that you have put in place?
I don't know whether it's really a best practice, but something that works for us is actually that those shy learners need to see what is the outcome for them. That's a key thing. So if we don't communicate what they gain from whatever type of learning, you never attract them or you never incentivize them enough. I think on Coursera you have a fantastic offer that can help attract the shy learners First of all, because it gives them a lot of convenience to learn anytime, anywhere, at their best fit in the agenda. The second thing is that not many of them have access to world-leading universities or academic institutions or practices by leading corporations. So that's an incredible thing. And also we see that testimonies and word of mouth. So you know what I found, you know what I did. Like in the old school marketing, it still works. We are still human beings and we are still influencing each other.
Social cues, fear of missing out even, yeah, almost.
Sorry?
Fear of missing out a little bit.
Fear of missing out or fear not to be up to date like the others are getting, yes.
So leading by example, really, showing, leading by example. That's very interesting. So.
But what is also very important, and I think clearly it's coming now from our top management, it is the messages about the importance of continuous upskilling.
Yeah.
I will tell you that just 5-6 years ago, we had one global big upskilling functional program. Today, we are covering almost all the functions and the requests are constantly growing. And it's not without the support and the strong advocacy by our top management.
I think that's very important too, that the manager shows the way and lead by example. So I remember a client in Italy, the CEO, so it's a big company, 50,000 people, he actually took a course and posted his certificates to engage with the other people, and that had a massive impact. So lead by example is also, if you want the culture to really work, your leaders, they need to show that they are adhering and living through this culture as well. Thank you, Albena, for sharing that with us. There are also a couple of points here that is the guidance, because some of these shy learners, they don't know what they want or they don't know what to learn first.
A good curation helps a lot, because very often they are not very certain on how to match their needs versus what is the content available or programs available. So a proper curation from HR, learning and development partners, and etc. is also super useful and also very important.
Yeah, they can get discouraged if they have too much choice as well, right? And which is not the case.
Help them cut through the clutter.
Absolutely. And this is not the case for the natural learners. These people, they tend to...
Natural learners as well, they benefit from curation, proper curation, but they are so much into continuous learning, and they have this natural curiosity and drive that they are sometimes even completing 1-2 courses before finding which is the right match for them.
So they are easier to...
They're experimenting.
They're experimenting. They can find content easier, but they're happy to have a little bit of guidance too.
Very happy.
All right, that's very important to know. And easiness of flexibility of access. You have a lot of people, they're living digitally. You want them to be able to learn when they want, when they can, and not to adapt their life to learning. So, technology has changed so much anyway. Now it's a lot easier to make it happen. But that goes to the next topic, which is, what kind of ecosystem can we offer to feed and to satisfy the three groups of learners whilst helping us with the strategic opportunity that we have at the moment. So these ecosystems, what's important to understand is that we have two kinds of demand, one from the business and one from the learners. From the business, this slide is from Frank Gaillard at Alstom. I told him that I will steal it from him. But I find that it's very simple, it's very interesting though. It's our ability to respond, and especially L&D, compared to the pace of change. We can't win this battle. So I know some companies are still doing huge exercises in skill taxonomy, paying millions of euros to consultancy to have a big book of all the skills they have in the company, where it will be impossible to catch up in real time in the future. It's becoming very difficult. The good news, you may not have to do it anymore. And from the clients, from the learners as well, what has changed is the expectation from the company, from the learner themselves. In the past, we had very siloed, very specialized areas of competencies. And so when I started my career in 2007, I was trained only in my job, in my activity. There was no way I could learn anything else even what I was selling at the time at Capgemini, I did not know what it was, and I could not train on it. And so what happened is that people became multidisciplinary. Now we're looking at transdisciplinary. I don't know if you have played with ChatGPT, but this is kind of tools that will need to be handled in the future by these people, and they will bring some value added on what the machine can do to be able to deliver better for the company. So they are asking to have competencies in different domains, being able to have this internal mobility as well. So how did the ecosystem adapt to that? Well, Josh Berzin says there have been 5 eras of digital learning. Try to simplify that a little bit into 4. But basically, we started with classroom learning, very specialized. Everybody had to attend, training mainly, not really learning. I make the distinction between training and learning, but we can discuss that later. Then internal e-learning, so that is always for what we have different in the company, what we want to teach our people about our differences and our savoir-faire. We have the external e-learning that for a while started to become the first channel, and e-learning, the way we differentiate it with the other offering is that you buy courses one by one, right? So you choose which courses you want to buy, you upload it to your LMS, and then you have it forever. It's not necessarily updated. And you choose by topics. Now, what's happened in 2016 is the on-demand open libraries became first. So, Coursera is one of them. You also have Udemy, you have LinkedIn Learning. They are very different, but they are still on-demand open libraries in the sense that they cover most of the topics. They are open for anyone to take any course in any area, and they're unlimited in the way people can use it. And so for your natural learners, this is fantastic. They can do whatever they want. For your shy learners as well, you can guide them towards the right resources. Now, where we're going today is what's called capability academies. So it's very interesting is how do you harness the AI and the assessments and the real level of your learners to create individualized learning path automatically for your learners. So you don't have to do it anymore. The machine will do it for you. If I want to explain very quickly, maybe the Capability Academy, just to show you ours. We start from the role or the goal of the person. We then list the skills that is associated to this goal. The client can customize this. You have customized it. Then the assessment comes in. After the assessment, the system will calculate your level. These are the little yellow bars, and you will get courses recommendation based on that. LXPs are doing that. This is why they are working so well. We integrate with them. A lot of your learning ecosystem are able to do some kind of capability academy. How do you connect that together is something we work on with many clients. But individualizing learning for your employees is something that is here to stay and will really solve a lot of our problems. Now, what I wanted to ask you, Albena, is the ecosystem of learning. When did you change it and why?
Good question, Quentin. I think it was more a gradual revolution, but very much accelerated by the advancement of technologies, by the need to reach our global population throughout, let's say, the 2 years with closures and opening during COVID confinements. I think it was also our natural cultural evolution and business evolution in the group, Pernod-Ricard, because we wanted to have an equitable access to learning, personal betterment and development opportunities for every single employee. This is where we reached out to you and we started our partnership because it's the first time in our history where every single employee have an equal access and opportunity to learn, progress and grow, both for the current roles, but also for any future ambitions and aspirations people may have.
Yeah. And I remember when I was working at Gartner, if you want to drive a cultural change in the company, you need to address all the employees at once. If you target only pockets, you have. So that's interesting that you're saying that. Now, this is more yours because what we wanted to finish this session on before we go to the KPI session at 3:30 is a new role of L&D. So with all this time that we're saving from, the skill taxonomy, from some activities that we had to, make all the curations, how do we use it and how do we, change our activities to become more strategic. So I asked ChatGPT about the current activities of L&D. So what ChatGPT said is identifying skill gaps, designing and delivering training, providing support, managing, tracking employees, and encouraging employees' development and growth. There are definitely some of these things that are going down in terms of the importance the company is giving them. And especially, identifying skill gaps. You have vendors that can do that for you. You don't need to do that yourself. If you have content libraries, if you have LXPs that are distributed to all your company, they can identify that automatically. Designing and delivering trainings, same thing. You have a lot of catalogs online that can do it for you. You can, and with all the different providers that I can see in this event as well, there are so many solutions to create courses very easily. You just need to give it to your subject matter expert. You don't need to do it with your team anymore. So you can outsource it internally or externally. So there are some things that are going to take less time, and more things like strategic or help to the learners directly that may be taking more time, training your HRBP. I don't know, Albena, what do you think the future of your function is? I'm
very glad that you showed the answer of ChatGPT. The good news is that it doesn't know it all, not yet. But at least I think that a very important aspect here would be the human dimension, the sustainable employability, which makes all of us in businesses more impactful for the good of the societies, actually building more sustainable societies. And one very important thing is that actually the personal improvement, personal development translates inevitably in business growth. And that would be even more important or strategically critical, as Quentin would say, for the performance of every single company on this planet and this world that is full of challenges and constantly growing change, accelerating at a pace that does not allow us to even learn fast enough about this change. So one thing that is guaranteed is not only taxes, of course, it's not only change, but it is the learning and lifelong learning for all of us.
Lifelong learning, yeah. Thank you very much, Albena. So this is what we wanted to show you today before we go to the KPI that enable you to have a strategic conversation, which we are going to do at 3:30. Do we have any, well, where is Sally? Well, Sally. Do we have maybe any question that have been asked? So, this one is for you, Albena. Which KPI is Pernod-Ricard using to measure return on investment of the overall L&D program?
Okay, I'm not properly the right person to answer this question because I can't list all the KPIs. What is important here is that the KPIs are defined depending on the learning goal of the respective program. So leadership program would have different KPIs to technical skill training, for example. So for us, what is important, adequate KPIs for the needs the program has been developed or put in place for.
Thank you very much. What are the most impactful benefits we could share to executive committee in order to invest more in L&D? Is there not easy?
First, talk to your chief learning officer, talk to your CEO. I would quote our CEO, who says that people are the only factor that defines the difference between success and failure. And therefore, investing in people, which means investing in L&D and their development, is critical for the success of the company.
All right, so sorry we can't do the last question, but you can ask them maybe in the 3:30 session in Theater 6. Thank you very much, Albena, for being here today.
Thank you, Quentin, for inviting me to share this session with you.
Right, hopefully it was useful. Thank you very much all for being here.
Have a great conference.
Merci beaucoup.